This is the second video in a series of short videos on my book, Misguided Love, Christians and the Rupture of LGBTQI2+ people. In this video, I want to address the matter of harm being done to sexual and gender minority people. In my research, I found that there is a very large body of evidence within the social research community that religious communities, and particularly Christian communities, do harm to sexual and gender minority people. It's particularly difficult for sexual and gender minority youth. And I'm going to talk a little bit about what I found in this research and why this is so disturbing and should be so disturbing to us as Christians. Now, I have to acknowledge at the beginning that there has been a big change within many Christian communities in North America as people started to realize that they are doing harm. And this is a very hopeful trend, but I still find that there's a lot of people resistant to hearing the stories of harm. In fact, recently, in a meeting in my own denomination in the Presbyterian Church in Canada, another colleague said to me, well, when we think about matters of doctrine, we should not consider harm. I find this a very disturbing idea, because after all, Christianity is in its heart a faith about God's desire for the flourishing of people and for the grace of God to come into people's lives. And it's certainly not a religion or a faith that seeks to harm other people. However, the reality is that it has done tremendous harm through history and that it is still doing harm today. Here at the University of Toronto, where I work and teach theology, the professor of social work, the Canada Chair of Social Work at the University of Toronto, Peter Newman, and his team, together with Sophia Fantis, has done some tremendous research. They reviewed the literature, which clearly demonstrates the harm that is being done to particularly sexual and gender minority youth. This research shows that there is a highly elevated level of suicide, of suicidal ideation, of family breakdown, of depression, and then there's also a lot of harassment happening, particularly in religious communities and in religious schools, particularly Christian communities and Christian schools, levels of verbal harassment as well as physical abuse that occurs against youth who are sexual and gender minorities. The larger picture is also not good, because older folk who come from sexual and gender minority groups who are faith involved, who are involved in faith communities, have the same high elevated levels of suicide and suicidal ideation. These are really troublesome things that are created by the tension between what Christian communities teach and their attitudes towards sexual and gender minority people. It's very, very important for us then to deeply consider the matter of harm.